Welcome to Dead Talk, the podcast where we dissect one Grateful Dead song at a time. Join me as we explore the history, meaning, and musical composition of their classic tracks. Whether you're a longtime Deadhead or curious newcomer, there's always something new to discover about the music of the Dead. So sit back, relax, and let's dive deep into the world of the Grateful Dead.
Darkness shoves me, it's to take goodbye. Fleeting arrow, sharp and narrow.
Welcome to Dead Talk, episode 9. Today's guest is a passionate songwriter that has been taking St. Louis by storm since her 2015 solo release titled She. She since has put out a full-length album as a full band, including some of St. Louis's finest musicians by her side in the studio. The album's genre can range from folk, country, jazz, bluegrass, rock, and is whimsically titled A Vibrant Shade of Blue. You can catch her alongside the city's hottest cover band, Sean Cannon's Voodoo Players, when they perform music of the Grateful Dead, Jerry Garcia Band, Fleetwood Mac, and Bob Marley. You can also look forward to watching her original act share the stage with Jason Isbell this summer at the Chesterfield Amphitheater for the Open Highway Music Festival on June 17th. Please welcome the talented, the beautiful, Miss Hillary Fitz.
Thank you. Ambition.
Thank you. Thank you for letting Max and I invite ourselves over.
Absolutely. Welcome to my couch.
Thank you.
It's a lovely couch.
Thank you.
So, Hillary Fitz, we had this scheduled for last Thursday, but it didn't happen because we were both tired from the rain. But last Wednesday night, I saw you perform with Sean Cannon's Voodoo Players, filling the role of Donna Jean for the 1977 show, Cornell series.
Yes.
How did that compare to when you would perform the music of Jerry Garcia Band? Because it was your first time doing like Grateful Dead music, right?
Yeah. It was definitely different.
How so?
They have different feels. I think the Grateful Dead show is definitely more spacey. You know, it kind of took a life of its own in moments with the jams. They were kind of more stretched out. Whereas, and kind of more free flow sounding. But Jerry Garcia Band, that tribute is more, I feel like has a little bit more like structure, kind of more blues influence, kind of more like
gospel-y
exactly. Yeah. The singing is definitely more, soul gospel. It's very rooted in blues. Whereas the 77 Dead was really kind of, trippy and psychedelic and, just had a lot more like space and kind of seemed like each song kind of had its own life.
Nice. Did you have like a different vocal approach at all with like the spacier vibes? Or I don't know how much you can do with your voice.
For sure. I mean,
professional singer.
I'm really glad that Sean had a tambourine.
Yeah,
and
I've never seen you play tambourine.
Well, I had played it the weekend before for the first time on the Fleetwood Mac tribute, and I had never really played the tambourine, but I spent all weekend playing the tambourine, and then the next week was Grateful Dead, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try the tambourine again. Why not? Nice. So I definitely, on that, more so was singing just harmonies over the choruses and not doing too much. Whereas on the Jerry Garcia Band, there's like clear backup vocalists that have kind of like more gospel harmonies in certain spots. So it's kind of more, I didn't really know what exactly I was going to sing on the 77 tribute because
like the songs.
Well, I knew the songs,
okay,
and the choruses, but like, my part, I was like, I'm just going to kind of play it by ear and see where I can fill in here. It was my first time on that show too. So I was still kind of figuring out. It was really fun learning those songs because I was listening to the Dead, and then we started that Amazon documentary, A Long Strange Trip.
Oh yeah.
When I was preparing for that, I was like, I want to watch that doc.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's cool.
That documentary got me into this song.
Yeah, that's
Big
why.
time.
So that's why I ended up choosing this one, is because I was like, ooh, that would be a good one to do.
And what song did you choose?
I chose Morning Dew.
Nice. And I always follow up with why, but I guess you just explain that because you were watching the documentary and you're like, wow, nobody was in the booth for that one.
Well, that song was just really powerful in the documentary, and I like what it's about. First, I wanted to do Saint Stephen. We talked about doing that one because I just love. That's probably my favorite Grateful Dead song. And then we talked about what's it?
They Love Each Other.
They Love Each Other,
which is also another good one.
I love that song. But then the Morning Dew, I like that it's kind of about that post-apocalyptic. I'm into that, those ideas and kind of like songs about that. Like a lot of the Talking Head songs have those kind of themes in them, and I like those. I like reading books that have themes like that too. So and I just felt like that moment in the documentary is like when they were talking about Jerry was like shedding tears, in his solo.
Playing for all of humanity.
Yeah, I was
that
like,
first guitar solo really is like the Jerry. That's where I feel like the Jerry worshiping people. When there was the bass heads and then
You talking
the
about
spinners. Well, yeah, the Jerry. That's like I feel like that song was the origin of Jerry Church.
yeah,
Because when he comes in with that first solo, it's like it's truly like you're going to a higher power. Like this is the most spiritual thing.
yeah. It felt
From the
like
Grateful Dead.
I
just,
personally like the third solo. On
Third
that
solo is
version.
Yeah.
really good too.
It was, it definitely you could feel like the power of that song, of the live version, and just the story, of where they were at in the 60s and 70s, like post-Cuban Missile Crisis, growing up with that, and then kind of coming together. And it seemed like, at the shows, it was all different types of people. It was like this coming together after a very polarizing time.
Yeah, everyone was welcome at a Dead show, and that was before they were way ahead of that. They were way ahead of America
Exactly.
and making an inclusive environment. I mean, the Dead were the most inclusive environment.
Yeah.
Like anyone could go to a Dead show.
And that freedom too, like after thinking about like the 50s and the culture of that very like strict, domestic focused, very clear cut rules of how to be or not be, I feel like they really broke that and ran with it.
Yeah.
And that's so cool.
I think that's why they're the greatest American rock band, because they ran with it and they stuck to it. And even if it went to where it went in the 90s or wherever ahead, they embraced it and they never changed. Jerry Garcia never changed. This is, I'm not in charge. I'm just playing the music.
Yeah. And the fact that it could be messy.
Yeah.
But so can life. I feel like it's a good reflection. So can life, and so can when you break the rules and you don't know where you're going, it can be messy.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was, when they talked, especially in that documentary, about how it's the vibe of the crowd that shapes their music, it's just pretty neat to think about.
It's very neat. And also, they created like a whole, like, multiple week-long thing, like experience. It wasn't just one show. It could be for some people, but a lot of people, it was like what they did with their summer, you know, and they like had an opportunity to kind of like relive the beatnik kind of lifestyle of exploring America, but they had, like a family to follow them or like to follow, and like they would run into people that they met in different cities that they haven't seen since, or like
I bet it was amazing.
I had a friend recently, like a few months ago, he messaged me. He's like, hey, I've never listened to the Grateful Dead. Where do I start? And, obviously I pointed him to some things, but it's the people that get the Grateful Dead know that there's not, you're going to, even as a Deadhead, I'll listen to some, like I have Sirius XM right now, and I'm loving the Dead radio there. And there's some recordings that they'll play, these like from the vault things, and I'm like, God, this is rough. This is really rough. But as a Deadhead, life is rough. Like you're saying, things aren't perfect. They're rolling with it. It was a bad night. It was a bad show. There was a fight before it, etc. I mean, everything can happen.
It was
raw.
raw.
You just walk in. But when it is good, that's when the Deadheads know. And that's when you're like, holy shit, this is magic.
Well, and it's cool to see a band that got that big that's not so well rehearsed that they're robotic to give this performance to people. You know, like their performance included mistakes and mess ups and improvisation that they just rolled with, and that's why they sound so weird and good. Because it's that freedom to like not, prohibit yourself from making mistakes, which I think a lot of live bands do. You know, they think
it's like true honesty, where it's not every single note or every single word is so rehearsed, and every single night it's the exact same show that the people in the last city saw. It's like a brand new experience, for better or for worse.
Yeah. Which would be tough, I think, as like a musician in a band, that took me a long time when I started off, especially to like be okay with making mistakes on stage. I would get really embarrassed and, doubt myself and all this stuff, but it's cool to see a band that's like, that thrived in that. They're like, the mistakes is where the good stuff comes from.
And like everyone loves when Bobby forgets the lyrics for some reason, or like sings wrong lyrics. Everyone's like, woo! That's Bobby being Bobby.
It makes them more human and accessible and more relatable, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And even when I followed the tour of Dead and Company in 2016, I would see like Bob Weir's wife a lot, like in lot, like walking the parking lot and just hanging out with us regular folk,
Yeah.
Nice. I feel like they were also the only band to really start doing the improvisation in a rock setting. I mean, obviously jazz, that's always been there, but
and bluegrass.
Bringing that to the main stage, the rock and roll scene, was so different. I mean, at the same time that we're listening to all these 70 songs that we worship of the Dead, the Eagles are out there doing these live performances note for note, rehearsed. Flawlessly, beautiful harmonies, note for note solos that are just like the record, Steely Dan style. And then you have the Dead the same year doing their style. And they're both beautiful parts of the 70s, the golden age, but you got to respect the Dead just
and the fact that it's that they, once again, like, we say rock and roll, but what really are they? It is total melting pot, which you see a lot of bands now, and it's that too. So I feel like they kind of paved the way for the like melding of genres to kind of be like, it is just what it is. It's blues, it's rock, it's folk, it's, bluegrass.
Kind of like a vibrant shade of blue.
I was just going to say, kind of like your music.
Would you say the Dead has inspired your original music at all? Or not really? You don't have to say yes because it's a Dead podcast.
No, it's okay. I mean, I think, so when I first started getting into music and kind of exploring different genres when I was like early high school, the Dead were definitely a part of that. When I found them, I was listening to them a lot, along with just other genres of music. So I do think that they were definitely a part of it. And I found Jerry Garcia Band and was really into Jerry Garcia Band when I was like 16, 17. I wouldn't say like them specifically, like I'm like, they inspired my music. But like, I think for me, like who I am as a musician now, it's, it's just a mix of all the stuff I've listened to or got into that ends up influencing your music. So I would say they're maybe part of the puzzle piece.
Nice. That's what I like to hear. That's what I was looking for.
Who would you say is your biggest influence?
Oh boy. I mean, I'm always influenced by like powerful, badass lady musicians.
Not old, fat heroin addicts.
I guess.
A band of white guys.
I think a lot of like what I listened to early growing up, what my mom listened to really influenced. She listened to a lot of Joni Mitchell, a lot of Bonnie Raitt, a lot of Alanis Morissette.
What about Bonnie Dobson?
No.
Bonnie Dobson wrote Morning Dew.
I was like, how bad it was like, who's Bonnie Dobson?
Nice plug there for Bonnie.
Well, I heard Bonnie Raitt, I think you said.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, this is a good time to plug that, I thought.
So the strong blues women.
Strong blues women, yeah. Rock, jazz
folk.
too. I mean, I grew up with Ella Fitzgerald and Etta James and Billie Holiday. But honestly, I don't really know. I mean, once again, I feel like it's all just like I like what I like, and I get really into what I'm into during specific phases of my life, and I feel like you just carry that with you, and it kind of becomes part of you. And you learn how to sing from these singers, so it's kind of like as you sing along, you kind of like learn little like vocal.
I think that's a unique thing to our generation. Previous generations collected vinyls and CDs and cassettes, and you have those physical, tangible objects, and then you trade them, you lose them, you break them, you move out, you got to sell your shit. But we're the first generation that's going to carry our full catalog with us till we die. So your playlist is going to become your life. You're going to be listening to Etta James, and then the next song will be Talking Heads, and then the next song will be Jerry Garcia.
Yeah,
and that's just so cool.
It's going to be super random. Like if I ever have kids, who knows? Like it's going to be very random because the music I listen to depends on my mood, and I feel like when you're really into a band, like for instance, when I listen to a lot of Grateful Dead, it really does I feel like transport me back sometimes to when I was like that, like 16-year-old, like looking for what's out there in the world, and exploring different types of music. When I hear it, I'm like, oh, I remember being in my room and doodling and getting stoned and listening to the Grateful Dead,
What's an artist right now that you're just can't get enough of that's just top spin?
Let me think. It's a good question. Once again, it's all like super random. I'm trying to think. I've been exploring more of a genre, I guess, but music from Mali.
Oh, yes. Molly the Country.
Yes.
Oh, man.
I've been listening to a lot of playlists with,
Alif,
I can't pronounce his name.
Fourke.
Yes.
Ali Turka, like with the stringed chord.
Yeah. What is the name of that instrument?
It's a gourd instrument with a bunch of strings.
I can't remember. But yes.
Holy shit, yes.
That's so good. And I really like the polyrhythms in that music. So I've just been kind of exploring that. But I don't know, no like specific band that I'm like on right now.
Mali is a country?
Yeah,
Yes.
Mali.
It's in like the
Africa.
Sahara. And the music
news to me.
is amazing. The music is amazing. It's like
super good music.
It's so good. I'll send you some.
Nice.
I'll send you a good playlist.
It's really
next to Jordan?
No.
Tonight's show is in front of a live studio audience.
Here, why don't I get the globe out? No.
Yeah.
Nice. So, Hillary, you mentioned it when we first started talking about Morning Dew, about what it was about, and never really got to touch on that. Can you kind of explain more in depth what the original lyrics were kind of like inspired by?
Yeah. So just from what I read about it, it was a song written about kind of a post-apocalyptic, post-nuclear fallout setting. So, and there was like the last couple that survived, and it's a conversation between partners where the woman is asking to be walked out in the morning dew, and I guess her partner is notifying her that you can't and that you didn't.
The war,
or because there's nothing left. And so they're like, and that it doesn't matter anyway at the end of the song because everything's dead, and then that one lyric that's really powerful is about thinking you heard a man moaning, that I think it's about, but it is about nuclear war and kind of like the end of times, which I think was very, very present for that generation.
So before you read up on like, I guess the actual history of the songwriter, what did you interpret it as for your own personal like listener experience? What it made you think of, or like times or memories, or even like current situations?
It definitely, I felt that it was like a conversation song, and that something had happened, I could feel the conflict in the song, but also the way that, especially the way he plays it, it's kind of feels like more of like a release, kind of like, and it sounds peaceful, in the way that he plays. It's very like I don't mean to sound like a douche, but like very transcendental sounding, so kind of like that calm, I guess, after a storm kind of feeling. which I guess would correlate to kind of, once I did read about what it was about, I was like, oh,
that makes sense.
Like that makes sense, and you can hear that in the music, in the song.
The Dead, I feel like this isn't the first, and this is not the first time it's come up on the podcast, but the Dead have a way with taking these really morbid, sad, lyrical songs and putting in this like little kick of optimism.
Yeah.
By the end of it, in the end of Jerry Garcia's solo, he's like, yeah, we're in the rubble. The war has happened, like you're saying. There's babies crying, etc. It's going to be all right.
But it doesn't matter anyway, It's matter. Kind of like...
So we're all going to die eventually.
So
we might as well just stick it through.
Yeah, where it's
the
like
third
that...
guitar solo.
That kind of like...
One more solo.
That like coming together, or like that peace after...
after the storm, after the rain.
After the storm. Or, or where I love songs like that like have really like dark themes and undertones, but they don't make you feel depressed. Yeah. I think that's really powerful because it keeps you still feeling something good, yet you're exploring ideas that are like scary or hard. And I think that's a really like beautiful way for songs to be written.
Yeah, I agree. I love the like the contrast of like the lyrics and I guess the energy of a song. I grew up listening to like a lot of pop punk music, and it was kind of the opposite, where it sounded like a really happy song, but it's just somebody complaining or like some talking about like something really sad and depressing, but it sounded really happy. I think the contrast is pretty creative between the Dead and I guess
I think that's like the highest level of songwriting. Is writing really sad, moving things or touching emotional topics, but making the music make the listener want to listen to it. It doesn't put them in that sadness.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about Bonnie Raitt, it's like that "I Can't Make You Love Me" song.
Yeah,
saddest song ever. But when she goes to the chorus, you're like,
it's like you're like
yes,
in it. Yeah,
it
still
like,
has
like
that like energy that makes you feel, but doesn't make you feel like depressed or like down, you know, it's kind of like because at the end of the day too, like for instance in that song, it's about, love, which is like a beautifully strong, powerful emotion that's good, but it's also, she's loving someone enough to let them go, in that song. And it's like, hell yeah, this is so sad. We all have heard that and cried to it, I'm sure, at some points in our lives. I have for sure. But like, it's, and I think that kind of correlates to Morning Dew. It's like that, finding peace in something terrible. And same thing with like, just songs like that. It's just interesting.
It is. Morning Dew is the only Grateful Dead song that I've ever actually cried to.
Really?
I've cried
there's my little teaser about Morning Dew.
Like in the car by myself, like kind of stoned. Listen, I don't drive when I'm but like when you're like in the car, it's like when I feel like you really listen to music the best because it's like surrounds you. You're by yourself, and I've definitely been driving to that last solo, and it's like.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we don't all cry while we play this song. Unless that's what the listeners want to hear or see. Maybe we'll all just...
There's the silver lining, though. I will play devil's advocate, though. And I showed the song to my mom on Mother's Day because I was telling her that we're doing this podcast and stuff, and she turned it off because it was too depressing. So the vibe did get to her that it was sad.
It's like Mother's Day.
Like, Mom, listen to this song. Doesn't matter anyway. We didn't even get to that part, honestly.
She only made it to the first solo. I mean, she's not a real deadhead.
Yeah, and I was like, Mom,
she just hadn't heard the third solo.
That's what I was telling her, and she didn't want to. She didn't want to make it to the third solo. So
that's classic jam band talk right there. Oh, just wait till the second
third
solo. No,
That's
you haven't heard the right version on YouTube. Trust me.
Yeah, it's better than the studio version, which there is no studio version for this song by the Grateful Dead. It was on their first, their debut album called The Grateful Dead. That was out in 1967. It was called The Grateful Dead, and it was a live version of March 1967. But it was like their first like official release
of that song.
And they actually played it 528 times.
Damn.
From 1967 to I guess 1995. And the last time they played it is not on here.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. June 21st, 1995 at the Knickerbocker Arena in New York.
I don't know if we've had a song that was played from the 60s to the 90s in our
podcast,
yeah.
not yet. Yeah,
what band plays 60s to the 90s?
Yeah, this
Holy
is
shit.
definitely the oldest one we've talked about so far, and it's also the first one that we've talked about that's not a Grateful Dead original.
Yeah.
Like I said before, this was originally by Bonnie Dobson, and that came out in, I think, 1964.
And apparently, what I did read that it was written by her, and that it was actually the first song she ever wrote ever,
Wow.
like of her whole life.
Wow. It's like she, it's like one of those things that the song just came out of her kind of thing without any like training, or like she's not trying to be like an artist or songwriter. She just
Popped
had
one
the
out.
song
Yeah.
for some reason.
That's the way to do it.
I just got the chills.
I'm excited to play it.
Me too.
Yeah.
So we talked about that one version with I keep mentioning the 3 guitar solos, and the version we all talk about. For those of you who aren't familiar with the main one, it's 1972 in London at the Strand Lyceum Stadium or theater, whatever it is. So that's kind of like the main one that was released in 1972.
Was that their first Europe tour?
Yes. I think they might have only done like 2 or something. I'm
Okay.
not super sure, but it was definitely their first one. So it was like
A moment.
Yeah.
yeah.
It was like Dead going overseas.
Yeah. And
Bring
I
it on.
guarantee you a bunch of American Deadheads went.
You think?
I would say so for sure.
I wonder
Like,
what the Europeans thought of all of us.
Yeah.
It was
Wild,
Americans.
Wild asses.
I'm like, oh, God.
Or they were like,
They're just
oh.
not ready for it yet.
Or were they like, oh, yeah. We don't know.
I bet, I don't know. I bet they were
I bet they were
probably
stoked.
into it. Yeah.
bet they were
I think
stoked.
they were probably into it.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably their first exposure to LSD too over in Europe.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the history of LSD in Europe. You think the Beatles brought it over?
Not to
Oh.
everybody.
In
I
London,
feel like
I'm
the
sure.
Dead
I'm
probably
sure
brought
they
it over to
dabbled in
everybody.
London. Who knows? But I bet it was epic. And
Oh, yeah.
I would have loved to be living in that time.
Oh, man.
God, it would have been amazing.
Yeah, and super cheap tickets, no
And
processing
just like,
fees.
if you were there to listen to it, you probably didn't even know about these recordings. There was no phones. You're just there living. Everyone in the audience is listening to the music and hanging out with their friends. There's like no chance of anyone being distracted by any outside world.
Yeah.
Like, your mom can't call you.
Yeah.
Your ex-girlfriend can't call you. You know, like there's no one that can get
Very-
a hold of you in that moment.
You'd have to be in the present moment. And it sounds like,
Oh,
there was like the real community aspect too, if you were a frequent flyer at Dead shows, I'm sure you ran into a lot of the same people around and kind of made a lot of friends. And I'm sure it was just wild. And the community aspect, I mean, that would be amazing to be like alive during that time and be able to feel that.
Yeah, you just have to trust that they're going to be there because it's like, well, I'm
Yeah.
going to text them.
Yeah. I hope we get to interview a really old person on this podcast.
totally
one day.
should.
Like who was there, who can so we don't have to wonder. He
Yeah.
can just tell us.
The
So when I
guitarist
was,
that was on the
tour
Dead
at
show,
Dead Company.
on the 77 Dead show, he went to Grateful Dead shows.
Gary
in the
Hunt?
Yeah, he went to Grateful
wow.
Dead shows in the 70s.
We should get
He
him
sent
on
us.
the podcast.
He sent us a photo of like a ticket of when they played St. Louis in like 70s something.
Oh, that's
Holy
cool.
shit, we gotta get in touch with Gary Hunt.
You do.
Okay.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's a nice guy.
So nice. Oh my God.
Gary Hunt, I'm coming for you.
I'm hunting for you.
Another super notable performance of Morning Dew was actually in 1977 at the Cornell Stadium show or Cornell Theater, or whatever it is, in 1977. A lot of songs we've talked about so far were featured in that. And Dead & Company just played there on the anniversary of it.
Yeah, I saw that.
10 days ago. 10 days ago from right now.
Yeah, they dropped it on Sirius. I listened to it. It was good.
Okay, that's what's up. I saw some clips here and there, but I didn't pay the $30 to watch it from Nugs. Sorry, Nugs.
Me and Jake didn't have to. Shout out
'cause
Sirius
you have
XM,
your,
man. Did you
on
listen
your-
to it? Oh, sorry.
Oh, you paid for it for sure.
Oh, you paid for it. Okay, that's true. Should have just bought Nugs TV.
One more performance of Morning Dew I'd like to mention is a show that I was actually at with my twin brother, Jake, who's sitting in the audience right now. What's up, Jake? Was by Joe Russo's Almost Dead here in St. Louis, Missouri at the Pageant. It was Tommy Hamilton, their guitar player, did it was almost completely solo, not like soloing, but like played it by himself and like finger picked it, and it was so epic, and the emotion was totally there when it was going on. It was quite magical, and I'm really glad they put it on Spotify so you can actually listen to this performance that I'm talking about.
When I told Jake I wanted to do, so Jake is my boyfriend, Noah's twin brother as well.
He is. I didn't know if I should mention that or not, but I'm glad you did.
Okay, well, I did. So Jake showed me the version of that song when I told him, I was like, I think I want to do Morning Dew for the podcast. He was like, all right, but we're going to listen to the J-Rad version now. And we were driving to a wedding through the country, and it was like a nice setting. It was like golden hour. And we listened to that song, and it was amazing, that version. And his solo at the end is insane. And the build-up that they have at the end of that song. Yeah, from the
start of it to like the very end.
Oh, it's so good. And he's hitting these really like dissonant notes that like make you like feel like all salty and good, that are like sound bad but so good because they're like perfect.
Yeah, kind of sour notes and spacey, but like kind of fits the words that he's saying.
And the way they play the hits and just the build up, the dynamics, the dynamics that they bring into that song of that recording were really, really cool.
Yeah, and I haven't found one similar to that since. Like it was kind of like a for St. Louis kind of thing, which I really appreciated because I feel like 2019, because I feel like on tour people don't really value St. Louis very much, I would say. Like I feel like bands on tour are like, oh, we really got to go all out for the St. Louis show. But
the people here we appreciate music so much.
Yeah, and I think they know that, Joe Russo and crew, because that was amazing. It was seriously one of the greatest things I've ever seen as far as like live music goes.
I bet.
So when you listen to that, Max, just imagine Jake and I in the audience.
It's going to be a hard thing to picture.
I think you could actually hear me whistling on the recording. Nice. That was me. Are there any other versions that you guys like of this song that you want to mention that I failed to?
One today from the National, and it was a pretty good Morning Dew.
Oh, is that on that Day of the Dead compilation? Yep. Okay, yeah, that's a pretty good compilation.
It is, man.
There's some weird ones on there, but some really good ones.
Oh, dude, have you heard The Help on the Way with Bela Fleck? And,
yeah, that
Brothers?
one's so good.
Ooh.
I didn't realize it was Wood Brothers as well. I knew
That's
it was
who's
Bela
singing,
Fleck.
yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Dang.
That one's
I love
super
them.
On the way. And it's on the banjo.
Yeah.
And tablas, like Indian tablas.
Cool.
Oh, dude.
Send me that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Noted.
This song has been covered quite a bit, and it's about to be covered more by us.
We're going to cover it.
Is there anything you guys want to mention before we stop talking and start fiddling around?
Yeah, when's your next show?
The June 17th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're playing the Open Highway Music Festival. That's at the Chesterfield Amphitheater. And it's a nice mix of national bands, regional bands, local bands.
Sweet.
So I'm excited about that. So that's the next show.
Nice.
Perfect. We just wanted to,
Thank you.
for all the listeners that we have,
Yeah.
we wanted to make sure that they were in the know.
Yes. Come to a show or listen to the album on Spotify.
Well, Hillary, this was a pleasure. It was probably the most fun podcast episode we've had so far.
Oh, yay.
I'd have to say so.
Definitely the most comfortable, I would say.
Yeah, cozy couch.
Well,
Thank you.
guys,
Thanks
thank you
for
for
coming
tuning
over.
in to Dead Talk, episode 9, and we will see you next week for our 10th episode.
Bye.